Do you love the 86 Transformers movie soundtrack and missed out on last year's Respect the Prime album? Well, you have another chance. Distortion Productions is releasing Respect the Prime 1986 Revisited Convention Edition this summer with 2 additional bonus tracks by the band Thoughtform. This release will be physical only and limited to 300 copies, with all proceeds being donated to cancer research. It will be available exclusively at TFCon Toronto, TFCon DC, Dark Side of the Con 2, and there's also a limited number available at distortionprod.com. The album cover art features Galvatron rocking out and was created by IDW fan favorites Nick Roach and Josh Perez. If you love the 86 movie soundtrack, and let's face it, if you're listening to this, you probably do, be sure to get to a convention this summer and grab this album.
You can win if you dare.
Hello all sentient beings, and welcome to TransMissions Alt Mode, where we talk about all news, comics, and media related to the... On this episode of TransMissions Alt Mode, we review Transformers Optimus Prime Issue 8. Transformers Earth Wars celebrates its 1-year anniversary, and how many Transformers The Last Night advertisements are too many. We have all of this and so much more on this episode of TransMissions Alt Mode.
Transmissions wouldn't be what it is today without the awesome support of our listeners. If you'd like to support our shows and enjoy the exclusive benefits that our donors get, please visit transmissionspodcast.com/support.
Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, the podcast that always hopes for the best, but fears the worst. I'm your host Charles, aka Big C, and I'm joined by the excellent Transmissions team. Yusuf, better known as Yoshi.
Yo!
Jeremy, aka Yakko.
Hey, how's it going?
And Daryl, the Cybertronian Beast.
I tend to prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. Let's talk Transformers.
What are you doing? That's what I said.
You said hope for the best?
Yes.
But fears the worst? I don't hope.
You don't hope for the best.
I hope, but I prepare for the worst.
Why? But you can't prepare for IDW putting out bad comics.
We have no donators this week, so we'll be moving on to comics news.
All right, before we get into our comics and media show, again, I want to remind everyone about Transformers The Basics. Chris McFeely's new YouTube show that talks all about Transformers and does a, deep dive into some topics and is meant for someone who's new to Transformers and wants to learn about all the crazy stuff we talk about. So the episode that just came out last week was about characters, all about all the different incarnations of our beloved Transformers characters throughout the different Transformers toys, comics, and media. So check out that video. It's really cool.
Yeah, he's done a great job on those.
Yeah, so I think if you support his Patreon, that'll help him plan for more. They're really well done videos, really edited very well. Very good use of different media from Transformers, so check it out. All right, let's get into some comics news. Big thing with IDW is they are planning for their next crossover, and that is First Strike, their next Hasbro crossover. IDW has got a couple of interviews up now. One with David Hedgecock, the editor of the First Strike event, and then another interview with Mairghread Scott and David Rodriguez, the writers of the story. So the interview with the writers is a bit spoilery, so I'm not going to talk a huge amount about it. But if you want to know about what the basic plot line is for the story, you can check that out. But I did want to mention the details about First Strike because we got more information when we looked at the solicits a couple of weeks ago for August. We mentioned how it looked like a lot of the books were being ended or canceled, and that has been confirmed now. So G.I. Joe is ending with issue 9. Mask is ending with issue 10. Micronauts is ending with their Wrath of Karza miniseries that's ending in issue 5. And ROM is ending at issue 14. So all these books are ending. Out of the the First Strike event is going to be 2 issues a month for August, September, and October. And then when that ends, there's going to be a relaunch of the books. So G.I. Joe and Mask are going to be combined in a single title called G.I. Joe Unmasked. Rob and Micronauts are going to have a single title. They're going to share that title. So there's some consolidation going on post First Strike. We also learned that along with the First Strike miniseries, we're getting one-shots similar to what they did with Revolution. So in September, we're getting G.I. Joe. We're getting G.I. Joe First Strike, Micronauts First Strike, Optimus Prime First Strike. And that is going to have art by Guido Guidi. So that's a nice treat. The Optimus Prime First Strike one-shot. But there's also a Transformers First Strike coming out in October, also with art by Guido Guidi. So I'm not sure if that's an error or if there's really going to be 2 separate books, both with art by Guido Guidi, revolving around Transformers. So we'll see. And it's the last thing I want to mention is that they are putting out a First Strike number 0 as a free issue that should be out in comic shops this week. So by the time this show goes up, you should already be able to get this at your local comic book shop. So check out First Strike number 0. We did not get a preview copy for that, but it's in the CBR story that they're putting it out. So I guess look forward to that. Hopefully we'll be able to get copies of that, and we can talk a little bit about that next week. During the week, I was doing just looking into what's going on with the sales numbers for Transformers comics to see if the relaunch and Revolution was, actually made some improvements to the Transformers fortunes. I mean, this was coming off of, recognizing that Transformers Till All Are One was being canceled. So I wanted to see what the sales numbers were looking like. So I did, dive through the numbers that are published on Comichron.com. Those are only the physical sales. They're not they don't take into account digital or anything else. So it's kind of an incomplete picture, but there were some interesting trends there. To me, it doesn't look like the relaunch was really a positive thing for Transformers comics. I mean, you can see, case in point, Till All Are One was canceled, but that the sales were steadily declining for that. We did see a bump with the relaunch. The number ones of Optimus Prime and Lost Light did get a bump above what their normal numbers are, but then they continued, they actually pretty sharply declined after number 1. Number 2 for Optimus Prime was still okay, but number 2 for Lost Light really seemed to take a hit. Especially, it didn't help that there was a 7-week gap between issue 1 and issue 2 of Lost Light. So, I think, of course, the comics industry is a for-profit industry. So if IDW can't make a profit on these books, that might be a reason why things keep getting shuffled and shifted around with all these events. I didn't look into the sales numbers for the other Hasbro properties, but I can't imagine that the other Hasbro properties were doing much better than the Transformers properties, especially since they didn't really have much of a marketing push behind them. So I did do some, I put together some statistics just for the Transformers books and shared them with our with all our people in the Discord chat. Maybe I'll put a link to that in the show notes so everyone can take a look at that. And I'll think about putting together a longer discussion about that in the future.
It really feels like they make the way things get printed and written and decisions are made, that by the time we get whiff that they're doing something, that if the entire internet went, yeah, it's a bad idea, they can't backstep. And the entire internet told them last time with the crossover that was a bad idea. And I really think half the reason why they stuck so firmly to it and were kind of arrogant and not acknowledging everybody that was bitching about it was because they couldn't fix it even if they wanted to, or change it even if they wanted to.
Well, I mean, that's part of the business is that they have to solicit things 3 months in advance. So, their projections are based on pre-orders, not even based on actual sales. So they can't really, course correct very quickly. But
no,
I mean, the other thing is that they in this IDW profile of the First Strike series, they say they've got 3 events planned. So they're doing 3 annual Hasbro Universe events. They started with Revolution. They're doing First Strike this year. Then they've got a 3rd one next year. So they're pretty much...
They're not learning from their fucking mistakes.
I don't know why they're committed to this, but they're continuing this. So I don't know. So there's been some requests from our listeners to see whether we're going to do another series of extra reviews for the First Strike series, similar to what we did with Revolution last year. We haven't really discussed that, but we'll see. It depends on our enthusiasm, I think, when it gets closer. I don't know.
If IDW wants to make a healthy donation, it's possible.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, but it could be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So that's all the comics news. So there's a couple of interviews about First Strike. So we'll have links to that in the show notes. As I mentioned earlier, the one with Mairghread Scott and David Rodriguez is a bit spoilery. So click it at your own risk. All right. Today we are going to review Optimus Prime number 8. The title is What It's Really Like. Written by John Barber. Art by Casey Collar. Colors by John Paul Bove. Letters by Tom B. Long. Editor Carlos Guzman. And publisher Ted Adams. So this is a treat. We get Casey Collar and John Paul Bove collaborating on art for the entire book. This is pretty awesome. We usually only get these guys. Yeah. We usually get these guys for covers, and now got the whole issue.
I need a second. I'm going to take off my pants.
Way ahead of you.
I'm sure Casey and JP appreciate our love.
They understand where we're coming from. They've had months to look at this shit.
All right, so we got 4 covers. We've got the regular cover by Kei Zama with colors by Josh Burcham. And that's Jazz getting ready for his close-up and his interview. But looks like some of those cameras are different kind of cameras that are ready to shoot him. We've got the subscription cover A. That is art by Casey Collar and colors by John Paul Bove. And it's Jazz... looks like he's in a nightclub about to, deliver a performance here. He's got the mic dropping down and he's ready to talk. He's sitting on a stool. The spotlight's on him. Then we've got the subscription cover B with art by Andrew Griffith and colors by Josh Perez. And that's Jetfire looking up into the night sky with a huge telescope that is not Perceptor. And the retailer incentive cover is by Sarah Peter Durocher, and it's a really nice watercolor style image of Optimus Prime. It looks like he's back on Cybertron. And there's a weird kind of cutout in it. I don't know what is supposed to be there. Why that half the image, or not half, but a quarter of the image is chopped out in this weird shape. But
I'm going to say 5/8.
Okay. Well, 5/8 is more than half.
Oh,
I don't
my
think
God.
it's more than half.
Wow, let's just go.
All right, Yoshi, tell me which cover you like.
Kaizama.
All right.
The artistic stylings of her and the artistic colorings of Josh. Gorgeous cover.
Daryl, which cover are you picking?
I'm probably going to agree with Yoshi on this one. The combination of the cameras and the guns. It's an interesting combo. Plus, I'm interested to find out what the hell the white blob is on the Sarah cover. It's confusing me.
Yeah. Jeremy, which cover are you picking?
I am going for the subscription cover A. I love the kind of desolation that you get in that image with just Jazz sitting alone with a microphone. And it kind of reminded me of, I had to go back and look for it, RID number 31, which was Casey and Joanna LaFuente, that Full Fathom 5 cover where he's playing the electro bass. It kind of made me think of that. Just, I don't know. They're very different in how they look, but just the feeling that it gave me was the same.
And Yoshi, I'm surprised you didn't pick that cover because look where that issue number is.
I know. It's like Tom only had enough time to do it to one of the covers.
All right, and I'm also going to pick the Keizama cover. I really like that image, and I like it also really gives you a little bit of an impression of the story, because that the guns pointing at Jazz in addition to the cameras, gives kind of the dual meaning of him getting his close up there. And it looks really good.
I would think that, the four of us looking at this, obviously there's a clear winner of which is the nicer looking cover. I would think IDW came to the same sort of conclusion. Why wouldn't the nicer cover be the rarer cover?
Well, K-Zama's the regular artist on the book.
Sure.
So hers are always going to be the retailer.
Okay.
All right, let's get into the story. In an undisclosed location outside Mexico City, a news crew waits for a very special interview guest. Jazz rolls up in car mode with his electro bass strapped to the hood. He transforms and greets Sofia Orozco, the cable news intern he's recently become frenemies with, and her boss, TV news journalist Hector Ramirez. Jazz has agreed to do this cable news interview on the condition that he gets to tell his story to the people of Earth. Hector Ramirez begins by asking Jazz about his origins on Cybertron before the war. We learn about Jazz's love for music and why he adopted the name Jazz after the Cybertronian equivalent style of music. Meanwhile, in Little Cybertron, the former Earth Defense Command base in the Bikini Atoll that has become the Junkion refugee camp, the Cybertronian colonist Autobot recruits are helping the Junkions repair their new shelter. The Junkions express their thanks, but the Autobots have no interest in interacting with their former enemies. They quickly transform and roll out, except for Slide, who can't transform without her dead Micromaster brother, Euler, who was killed in the fighting with the Junkions, by the way. As Slide laments her loneliness, Torchbearer leader Pyra Magna comes to comfort her. She also helpfully reminds her that her brother's death and all her pain is because of the current Prime. Back in Autobot City, Earth, floating above the Atlantic Ocean, the American president, still without a name, prepares to depart. She gives Optimus Prime a bit of advice. He should make himself scarce before Jazz's interview goes public. Optimus is in an untenable position. When this interview goes live, people will be reminded of how Jazz killed a human cop, and Prime will be pressured to distance himself from and denounce Jazz. But if he does that, it will be seen as a betrayal by his Autobots, and with Pyra Magna challenging him and the other Autobots losing confidence in his leadership, he's already hanging on to control by a thread. Optimus takes the President's advice to heart and contacts Pyra Magna, who is still in Little Cybertron. He asks her to come to Autobot City so they can go to quote-unquote neutral ground to try and talk things out between them. Pyra Magna is not convinced this will be productive, but grudgingly agrees to meet. Her fellow torchbearer Stormclash is equally skeptical. She even speculates that this is a move by Optimus Prime to try and separate her from the torchbearers and have RC assassinate her. Stormclash's sister Skyburst is incredulous and dismisses this notion, and Pyra Magna agrees. However, she still makes sure the torchbearers tell Miss Marissa Fairborn where she's gone, and she borrows Junkion leader Rummage's shuttle to fly to Autobot City. In the past, 4 million years ago, Jetfire is trying to settle into his new position working in the science lab of the Autobot police forces. He asks his lab mate Nosecone for the data he has on the C-119 overflow, but Nosecone ignores him. Jetfire gets increasingly frustrated with Nosecone shunning him and angrily storms out. Nosecone smirks, mission accomplished. As Jetfire flies across Cybertron at night, Orion Pax catches up to him in truck mode. He asks if he can have a word. Jetfire transforms and lands to confront Pax. Orion Pax is trying to befriend him, but Jetfire isn't interested. He still blames Pax for his current situation. He was forced to kill a Decepticon in defense of Pax's life. Now, Jetfire has betrayed the Decepticons so he can't go back to them, and the Autobots don't trust him and won't accept him. Prime still tries to convince Jetfire that he's on the right side now. The Decepticons are the enemy. But this only enrages Jetfire. He reminds Pax that the ideals the Decepticons are fighting for are just. Freedom from the tyranny of functionism, even if their methods are extreme. Pax counters that they have to work within the system to fix it, but Jetfire tells him that never works. Zeta Prime has continued the clampdown in the oppression of Nominus Prime, not ended it. But Orion Pax pleads with him to be part of the solution. He has the opportunity now to be a scientist instead of a flyer. Jetfire counters that he's not one or the other, he's both. And the system won't let him truly embrace both parts of himself. But Pax says Jetfire isn't like the other Decepticons. He's changed. But Jetfire retorts that all the Decepticons are just ordinary Cybertronians who are united by a common goal, the death of functionism, so that everyone can be who they want to be. But what about their violent methods, Orion Pax asks. Jetfire reminds Pax that he and the Autobot police force are using violence as well. That's how Hefter died. Finally, Orion Pax is out of arguments. He simply asks, what will Jetfire do now? In the present, in Autobot City, Jetfire tells an uneasy Aileron that her fellow Camion Pyra Magna is on her way. He mentions that Optimus Prime is taking Pyra Magna to Cybertron to discuss their issues, meaning that Aileron will be left in charge. Aileron bristles at that, her discomfort growing. As Pyra Magna and Optimus Prime take the space bridge to Cybertron and into the Transformers Annual 2017, that we reviewed in Transmissions Alt Mode episode 15, go check that out, a few months ago. Jetfire recognizes that Aileron is feeling disconnected and alone. He gives her a bit of advice he followed eons ago. Find somebody to talk to. Back in the distant past, Jetfire does seek out someone to talk to. He finds his best friend, the Decepticon Deluge, in a Decepticon-friendly bar. The bartender and other patrons are pretty hostile to Jetfire when he walks in, but Deluge greets him kindly. Jetfire is still a bit pissed at Deluge for leading him into an ambush and beatdown by Decepticons Horrible and Needlenose last issue. Deluge is a bit remorseful. He's a scientist like Jetfire. Deluge didn't join the Decepticons to crack heads, but because he sees how Cybertron and the Cybertronian race is in trouble. Scientists like Thunderwing and Bludgeon have answers that could save the planet. Jetfire scoffs that Thunderwing is a nut. Deluge laughs at that and semi-apologizes for getting Jetfire's rear end kicked. They'll be on opposite sides again in the morning, but for now, Deluge and Jetfire will enjoy another drink together. In the present, outside Mexico City, Jazz's interview continues. He goes through his history with the war on Cybertron and how he met and joined Optimus Prime. Later, he was sent by Prime to Earth as an advanced scout to see what Starscream's Decepticon operation was doing there. Jazz also reflects on all the things he discovered about Earth when he arrived. He was enthralled with the culture, especially the music. Jazz, of course, but also hip-hop, sambo, taiko, classical music, etc. Ramirez turns the interview increasingly hostile, asking Jazz how he feels that the Transformers war followed him to Earth, causing so much destruction. Eventually, Ramirez addresses the elephant in the room, that Jazz killed a human police officer when he was about to kill Bumblebee back when the Autobots were stranded on Earth. Jazz tries to explain the situation, how the cop had become unhinged since Megatron had dispersed guns in his image to humans all over the world to sow chaos. But Ramirez isn't listening. Ramirez drops accusations in rapid succession, laying all the damage the Transformers have done to Earth at Jazz's feet. Jazz protests to Sophia that he thought he would get to tell his story. Sophia counters that his story is messed up, so what did he expect? As Jazz gets agitated, he gets an anonymous text telling him one word: run. A G.I. Joe strike team led by Talon and Spike was tipped off to Jazz's location. They've arrived at the warehouse to bring him in. But they're too late. Jazz is gone. Sophia reflects that Jazz earnestly hoped telling his story would help bring humans and Cybertronians together. He seemed genuinely surprised that the interview was really just going to be used as propaganda against him and the Autobots. That's the end of the story, to be continued. I think the first thing I really want to mention here is the art. This is just superb. I love everything in this issue. John Paul Bove and Casey Collar. Casey Collar and John Paul Bove. Those guys work great together. I wish that Casey had time to do an ongoing series because this art, for me, it's near perfect Transformers art. It's really on the same level that I put with the Alex Milne, and I just really enjoy it. So thank you, Casey, for taking the time for this issue. And for a long time G1ers like myself, you might recognize Hector Ramirez. He was a parody of Geraldo Rivera back in the 80s. And writer Buzz Dixon, who wrote on a lot of the Sunbow cartoons, all those, Hasbro toy-focused cartoons, he put this guy in a bunch of these series. So Hector Ramirez shows up in Transformers, G.I. Joe, Gem, and in Humanoids in all those cartoons in the 80s. So this is his triumphant return to the Transformers universe.
One of the first shared universes, then.
Yeah, that's right. Another thing about the scientist Deluge that Jetfire was hanging out with, he's based on a G2 Decepticon race car. He was also in All Hail Megatron in the modern day, and by that time, he'd become a sadistic mad scientist who helped create the Insecticon swarm. So things went kind of bad for Deluge.
It did say he was working with Thunderwing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So maybe that corrupted him. So that Deluge, these days, he was actually killed by that same Insecticon swarm in All Hail Megatron. So you won't be seeing him in the future. Also, Gut Cruncher, the bartender of that Decepticon bar, was also doing bartending in Transformers Punishment, the one-shot that John Barber and Livio Ramondelli did in 2014. And that was in the modern era. He was running a bootlegged Enjex operation out of a Decepticon slum bar. But then he was murdered by Sandstorm, so you won't see Gut Cruncher anymore either. But it's just nice to have a couple of these little references that line up with all the other stuff that John Barber has contributed to the Transformers story. So I thought that was cool. So Yoshi, you've been away for a week or so. So what did you think of this issue?
The art is the standout star here. Yeah, Casey's humans are as good as his robots, and his robots are as good as his humans. It's absolutely gorgeous. A level of detail that I'm not used to seeing, but it's just, I can't say enough. I mean, if you like Transformers art, pick up this issue for that alone. Beauvais' colors are good, but he's, you guys know how I feel. He abuses, or is abusing, textures on this issue to no end, and it's just a sore thumb to me, unfortunately. The story, there are elements to it that are good, but to me, there's just too much jumping around and back and forth and time travel going on. There could have been less stuff, and it would have been, it doesn't feel like, it just feels like this is turning into another miniseries, that we're not going to have anything wrapped up here that's trying to get going for a while. And that's upsetting. It's also upsetting, as much as I love Casey's work and I want him to keep doing it and be on a book constantly, it's also frustrating that the art style in this book is changing so much. We all know Kaizama's
You're talking about from book to book?
Yeah. I mean, we know that Kaizama's the main one, and it's unfortunate for whatever reason she's not doing every issue, but it's I think it hurts that they aren't keeping one person on it.
Well, I think it's just she probably needed a break.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Whatever the excuse is, it's just unfortunate. So, but Casey just killed this. There's an interesting, like on page 15 with Skyfire. It's interesting, like this seems like the only mistake I see is like Skyfire's thrusters are different sizes, like really disproportionately different sizes.
Are you talking about when he's landing, or
no, the first panel at the top left, the red part?
Oh, I see.
Yeah, like that just jumped out at me, and the page with the dolphins, page 21, like that water just sticks out at me as a texture. It's just why draw it in? I guess I can't say anything good without saying anything negative. I want more Casey art. There, I'm done.
Jeremy, what did you think?
Well, I have to agree with Yoshi on the jumping around, like from, flashbacks to present day. And that just, it's something I've been complaining about for a while. It's just too much. And I think I mentioned it last week. they need to just bring back the backup story. Do your main story and then have a smaller backup story in the back of the book that tells the flashback. I know he wants to line up, this is happening in present day, this similar thing is happening in the past. See how, this thing affected Jetfire in the past, and now he can give the advice to Aileron in the present. But it's just going back and forth. It's just, maybe if there was a bigger chunk at a time, because it seems like we're only getting like a page, like the one right before Jetfire and Aileron are talking is just a single page flashback, and then you're back in present day. It's just too much. I kind of wish Jazz's interview was done more like, I don't know if you guys read the Death of Superman back from in the 90s, but at the beginning of that story arc, Superman's being interviewed on TV while the Justice League is starting to fight the Doomsday Monster. It's just across the top of the pages, you see the interview, and then you see all this action down below. I would like to have seen that style kind of worked in here, where you see, I don't know if it would work in this particular story, but you would see Jazz's interview while something else is happening on the same page. But on the flip side, I do like seeing the representation of the various scenes, like, especially the stuff we'd seen before, like Jazz killing the police officer, stuff like that. In terms of the art, I have no complaints. I think this looks excellent. I wish that we could get more Casey, but, unfortunately, we know the situation that keeps him from being full-time on the comics. But when we do get him for a full issue, it's always excellent. And I didn't really have any issue with JP's colors either. I thought they looked good, particularly some of the interview pages where it is more stylized than the regular comic pages. So, I would gladly read this book again. It was,
your thing would work, Jeremy, the interview with Jazz, if what you saw was like G.I. Joe getting ready to infiltrate the interview.
Yeah, if that had more than a couple pages, I think
that was the story. That should have been the whole comic, I think.
Yeah, the covers kind of lie a little bit in that you think you're getting a Jazz focused issue when really the focus in this issue is Jetfire.
Mm-hmm.
They're just trying to hit too many fucking notes, and I don't get why they feel that.
Going back to my whole backup story thing, that's something that you don't really see in comics anymore, and it served a good purpose.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you: would you be okay? So, I would guess they can't increase the page count with a backup story. So, would you be okay with a 15-page story and a 5-page backup story?
We're already getting that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the pages that are currently allocated to the flashbacks, put them at the back of the book with, you get your present day story and then your smaller flashback.
It's almost like, they're trying to figure out why the sales are down. So they're just throwing everything against the wall. And once they hear about something sticking, maybe they'll focus on it. But
well, again, it's a 3-month lag time to course correct. So this is not, I don't think
right,
this is
but we've been bitching about
this
since one. Like, this isn't, somebody's listening to us, but they're not.
We're not, other than Tom Belong, I don't think anyone listens to us.
Well, okay.
We're not the entire, Transformers comic buying public either.
But my ego says we are, sir.
All right. Well, we didn't hear from Daryl. Daryl, what do you think?
The art is phenomenal. I know we've all mentioned it, and I want to definitely hop on that bandwagon. It's a complete 180 from Keizama's art that's typically on the book. Casey's art is very clean, and Keizama's is a quite different, quite
raw,
muddy. Sure, yeah, that too.
Dark.
So yeah, this is just such a gorgeous book to look at. I also noticed reading it as the toy guy that Jetfire's past body is his classics toy. So, and it's a perfect representation of his classics toy. And then his present body is the Generations, or I guess I don't think it was in fact Combiner Wars, but it It was just prior to Combiner Wars. So it's that leader scale figure, Jetfire, that we got, which is a very cool looking figure as well. So yeah, those two designs are very evident to me. Especially nice to see the classics body come back for Jetfire. It was a cool toy. The story was neat. I liked seeing the way that the layout was for the interview, where it was along the side of the page for Jazz. So you got to see all the questions that were being asked, and how the interview kind of the process and how it kind of went from start to finish. So every interview question was almost as if it was laid out like a magazine. You were reading it like a magazine article, and then the interview kind of took a turn at the end with Jazz kind of losing it. But you had to expect that. I liked the inclusion of Hector Ramirez. As soon as I saw it, I was like, I know that name. Where the hell do I know that name from? And I had to Google it, and I'm like, oh shit, there he is. Yep, okay, I remember him now. But yeah, no, it's very cool. I'm wondering if the person or bot that texted Jazz to run was Orion Pax from the past. Because that seems to be what's happening with the books. Is Orion Pax is texting everybody.
It's alternate universe Orion Pax.
Right. So yeah,
He's just got I'm wondering numbers. Is if maybe it's the president, not Optimus, that did it.
Maybe. Who knows? We'll find out.
One thing I noticed with that scene, though, I think Hector was reacting not to Jazz getting up, but to his communicator beeping when he thought that Jazz was about to attack or something.
Yeah, I mean, when you're like a 20-foot tall robot, every move you make looks hostile to a 6-foot tall guy.
Yeah, but I agree with Yoshi that the star of the book this month for me is the artwork. I absolutely adore it. I could read a series of books like this, no problem.
All right. Well, yeah, I got to agree with everyone about the jumpiness of the book, all the different scenes and different threads going on was really a bit much for me. And yeah, I was expecting a little bit more focus on Jazz and some fallout from that interview, but it really felt like that was a kind of a background framing device for the rest of the story. I mean, that's fine, but yeah, I just think it's too much jumping around. It needs to focus on kind of a single thread. But yeah, the art, awesome, amazing, just great.
Flint was drawn really well.
Yeah.
I mean, it just looks like Flint.
Yeah.
Mexico was drawn really well.
Another thing that was neat was when Jetfire was landing, meeting with Orion Pax, you see his little Gerwalk mode for like one of the steps of him landing as he's like mid-transformation. It's like his legs are out firing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Nice little detail. Still don't know what the president's name is. I don't know why this is a continuing running joke.
Barb.
Here.
All right. It's Barb.
President.
You can have that one, IDW. You're welcome.
All right. Well, that is our review of Optimus Prime number 8. All right. Let's move on to some media news.
In media news this week, we got some more G1 Unheard audio from Transformers at the Moon.
Yes.
And they did, this one's kind of neat. They call it the Laserbeak library session. And it's just Laserbeak sounds. So it's kind of cool to listen to. Next one, it's Transformers Earth Wars is celebrating their first anniversary, 1 year and 10 million downloads. Well done, guys. Rescue Bots Academy is another Transformers show coming soon. So I guess Rescue Bots might be kind of rebranding and moving into a different... that's Rescue Bots Academy and another new Transformers show coming soon. So I misread that. Sorry about that. So I'm wondering if Rescue Bots Academy is how they're going to transition Rescue Bots into the next phase of kind of the story. But yeah, Rescue Bots is Yeah, the new show though is what I'm more interested in. What did you want to say about the Rescue Bots, Jeremy?
Oh, I was saying I found this post from DC Douglas, who's the voice of Chase on Rescue Bots, basically confirming Rescue Bots has ended and he's not going to be in the new show.
Oh, okay.
So he was just like doing a goodbye post, thanking everyone. And
all right. And then the like I said though, the new show. Obviously, we are in the beginning stages of what is season 3 or 4, whoever, depending on who you ask. But this new show would be the replacement for Robots in Disguise. And this is real early days. There's generally a 1-year gap between shows from my very slight research on the subject. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do.
Have any of you guys seen the new Danger Mouse reboot that's on Netflix?
No.
Because that's the studio that made that is the studio that is doing these.
Oh, okay.
So I thought it was pretty well done. If you want to check that out, it's a Netflix original. I think it's great. So I don't think we're going to be in another, Go 90 situation in terms of quality.
That's good. And lastly, I wanted to just kind of yell at the moon for a bit. Do my old man kind of screaming at the TV here for a second, because the last night...
Old man yells at cloud.
That's it. Yes, old man yells at cloud. Because the last night, in its juggernaut of kind of multimedia and advertising that they've got going on out there, have been just spewing trailers, TV spots, and clips this past week. And I've been trying my damnedest to avoid them. They literally, like, they're in every facet of TV that I watch at this point, because it's my wheelhouse. All the sites that I use that kind of have a kind of AI built into them for advertising, all kind of focus Transformers shit my way, so all these auto ads and all these auto things kind of pop up and they start playing Transformers, clips and shit. And I really starting to fucking hate it.
Ad blocker is a free download.
Well, I have that too. But so my kind of gripe is that all these things have they're giving away the entire movie. I'm really getting sick of it, because I'm going to pay money to go see this thing. And at some point here, I've honestly truly believe that if I cut these TV spots and clips and trailers up into their component clips, and I could probably see a good chunk of the movie without actually going anywhere. And that's bullshit, man. I am kind of pissed off about that. One of the last ones that came out this past week was saying that there's a returning character, some TV spots reveal a returning character. Now, I didn't watch it, but guess what? Now I'm going to go to the movie and say, there's a character coming back that has been in the movies before. Well,
I've just been spoiled just from seeing the headline in the show notes here.
Yeah, and that's basically what spoiled me,
So maybe we should clean up that for the people listening.
Well, they're the headlines that are everywhere, though. That's what they're calling.
I know.
They've got it, Cade versus Cogman, and they've got a picture of Cogman on the damn screen. So you get a really good picture of him. And that's cool. You get a look picture of him, but this is confirming his size, right? So I wasn't really, I didn't want to see that. I wanted to be surprised in the movie. I'm getting pissed off that they're spoiling the entire damn movie for me. And that's my gripe about it. So if you want to see all the trailers, TV spots, and clips, I gathered them all for you. If you want, I haven't watched any of them.
I think we're just going to leave them out of the show notes. You guys can Google them. Gotcha. They're everywhere.
Forbes magazine also says that we should be rooting for Transformers The Last Night. Why? Because Paramount has had a shitty year, and they need Transformers The Last Night to kind of bring them back. Well, I don't care about Paramount. I care about a decent fucking movie.
Yeah, if they put out good movies, word of mouth will, and their
Right.
marketing stuff will mean people will come out and see it.
Yeah. The history is on the side of Transformers, the live action series. They're going to make a shit ton of money with these movies. It's fact. The movies are not great as far as a written movie. The stories are not concise, but they make a lot of money. They're blockbusters and they have cool robots and shit in them. You know what? They're going to do well in the theaters, and they keep adding all these foreign markets to it. So they're going to do well. Paramount's not in no trouble whatsoever, Forbes.
Before we count our chickens before they hatched, let me just refer you back to 2016's various political results that were foregone conclusions that wound up not working out at all.
Well, the political results that shouldn't have been dependent on foreign markets were, and you know how that happened. But these Transformers movies have been opened up to foreign markets and are now contributing to them. So,
I mean, the domestic numbers have been decreasing, but the international numbers have greatly made up for that.
they've gone through the roof. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
So what I was going to say, the next one is, who is this? Is this Jerry Seinfeld's daughter, Haley?
Steinfeld.
No.
She,
Haley Steinfeld. She is an Australian singer / actress.
I didn't know Jerry was from Australia. This Haley Seinfeld is going to be
Stein.
Steinfeld.
That's not his name. Anyway, this girl is going to
She's
be
not related to Jerry Seinfeld.
This girl is confirmed for the Bumblebee movie, and she says filming begins soon. She's very excited about being in the Bumblebee movie. It doesn't say whether she's just a voice actor or a legit, live action actor, but she has done live action before. I know that a lot of speculation on this particular podcast has been whether or not the show would be kind of a stop action kind of a movie. This is kind of pushing it towards a live action thing.
Yeah, I mean the quote is, she says we start shooting, so I'm guessing that means she's not a voice actor.
I would assume so. I was hoping for the latter, but and there's a last one I wanted to end with was a new Transformers The Last Night, a viral prank, and I kind of find it interesting seeing as the theme of The Last Night seems to be time travel, where they're bouncing around from medieval times to World War II to current day, whatever. And this viral prank is showing a particular painting in an art museum that has been changed to show what looks to be Ironhide from the live action movie series, who is dead, and he is now in this painting that was painted in 1815, and all these patrons of the art museum are coming in and looking around and saying, "What the fuck? Is that a Transformer in this painting? How did that get there? What is?" And one of the people, the curator or whatever, a tour person of the museum, is walking around and saying, "No, it's not a Transformer. It's a ship that's sinking or something like that." It's kind of interesting. The kids that are in there, they know it's a Transformer. A lot of the other young people, they spot it as a Transformer. It's really interesting.
Mark Wahlberg walks in and is like, "I think I found a Transformer.
I think I found a Transformer. You get me my alien gun?" It's kind of fun just to see the reaction. But yeah, that's all I've got for media news this week, guys.
All right, well, Daryl, tell us what you brought us for transforming pop culture.
All right, pop culture. Now, this is a stretch for pop culture segment, but I figured it wasn't strictly media, but what the hell. The Pele Center for Media is going to be celebrating Transformers Day. That's what they're calling it. Transformers Through the Years is the theme that they are calling it. It is going to take place Saturday, June 17th, so next weekend. And they are going to be having a Super Saturday family screening celebration. They'll be giving away free Transformers toys to the first 350 kids that are in attendance. It'll be a fun-filled afternoon where they will show screenings of a new Transformers animated episode, Transformers Robots in Disguise, as well as specially selected Transformers animated favorites, including Transformers Prime, Transformers Robots in Disguise, and Transformers Beast Wars. I do find it funny that they're talking about it through the years and not talking about anything from the 80s. But, again, if they're giving away to children, they may want to focus on something that's a little bit more in their age bracket.
TFW didn't include it, but the actual link on the Paley Center says Transformers 84, Beast Wars, Animated, Prime,
okay,
and
cool.
the new RID.
All right, well, now I'm okay. Because, I mean, the picture they do show does have Optimus Prime in his G1 form. So it wouldn't make sense that they skip out the 84 version.
I think they should show the scene from the 86 movie where Prime is dying just to traumatize a new generation of kids.
They should show that in between every single thing that they show.
Just to reiterate, the Pele Center is in 2 locations, so they'll be doing it in 2 spots, New York and Beverly Hills. If you're in either of those locations, you'll have the opportunity to go check this shit out. Yeah, does this sound cool to anybody? I would definitely take my daughter to see this, even though I have access to all the shows myself.
Yeah, if I was in the area, I would love to go to an event like this.
You know, do we know anyone who might be a fan of Transformers in New York City that might have children
and the means
and
to
could
get
forcibly
anywhere?
enter with a gun?
Yeah, could get anywhere within the city with ease. Yeah, I think so.
I think we should see if someone could go and give us an on-site report.
Tom Proscia, you're activated.
Yeah, and Sergio, if he's saying you can go to Beverly Hills, you can go. That'd be great too. I want to see what the art activities look like.
It looks like a fun thing to do for the day. Go take your kids, sit around, watch some Transformers, play with some toys. Fucking awesome day.
Mm-hmm. And you can take a special souvenir Transformers gift photo that you can share with your friends on social media.
All right, well, that's our pop culture segment, so let's go on to convention news.
In convention news, we got a couple TF Nation items. The first thing is they've announced that Nick Roche is going to be attending TF Nation, which probably was a given since he's from Ireland and it's not that far for him to go. The other TF Nation news we have is that they are starting a podcast. The TF Nation podcast is at tfnationpodcast.libsyn.com, and it is hosted by Adam White, who you might remember from the Underbase 88M, and also from Underbase is Adam Nickel, better known as Grufflock, and they are doing. It looks like it's going to be alternating between some kind of factual information on one show and then more of an interview on another one. They have some, like one of the show, Adam is talking about alternative hotel information. And then the next one, Gruffy is talking about, or he's talking to Alex Milne. So I think this is a great idea. More conventions should be doing stuff like this to promote themselves. I will be listening at least to some of these shows, even though I'm not going to be able to go because they didn't invite me. But I think this is going to be a great thing to do. And the next item I have is voice actor Scott McNeil is going to be attending TFCon Toronto 2017. So as if this convention wasn't going to be, fun enough, Scott McNeil is awesome. He's voiced like Waspinator and a million other characters on Beast Wars. He's done so many voices. He will be, I believe it says he'll be hosting the charity auction. So that's going to be hilarious. So
Waspinator, Dinobot, Rat Trap, Silverbolt.
And I'm sure countless other voices just, in the background. I saw him, I think in like 2011, and he was hilarious. And apparently the Chosen Prime has sponsored his appearance, so all autographs and photos are going to be free.
Oh, wow.
That's fucking awesome.
That is.
So
Sounds like someone should ask if they could do an interview. If only we knew a podcast that could do that.
I don't know if anyone will be there.
maybe there's some 2-bit podcast that might be there that could do it.
Well, our podcast is 4 bits at least. So.
Right, but 2 of the bits are going to be there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's all we got for convention news.
All right. And that'll take us to the end of the show. Not a whole lot of feedback this week, so we're going to skip that and say goodnight. Thanks, everyone, for listening. And as always, our Transmissions podcast and Transmissions Alt Mode are fully supported by our listeners on Patreon and PayPal. Thank you to all our listeners out there who donate a small portion of their income to help us keep this podcast going. I wanted to mention we are trying to bring a new show online called Transmissions Declassified, where we take the opportunity to do really deep dives into Transformers subjects. We were just released episode 1 of Transmissions Declassified, and we're making it a goal. If we can get enough patrons, we're going to turn this into a monthly show. So be sure to check out the first episode, see if you like it. And if you want more of that, consider giving us a Patreon donation. So we're currently at 45 Patreons. If we get up to 60, we're going to unlock that show. And that'll be exclusive to all our Patreon supporters. Then if we get even more, if we get 75 Patreons, then that show gets unlocked for everyone. So it's up to you. If you guys can help us out, then we'll do it.
Here's what I want to say. And I just want to talk to the people that don't give us money, because there's a lot of you, according to our stats. You've been listening to us. You think about giving us money, even at the Yoshi level. Here's your chance to be a part of podcasting history. When you do sign up on Patreon, sign up with the username Donator, so Charles has to say it. It is going to be so worth that $1 to sign up as a donator, so that Charles says Donator. You can't...
Yoshi, I'm buying a ticket to Bellingham, Washington right now.
Yeah? For a hug? For a hug, buddy?
It will be a very crushing hug. I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
You know what? They want
a hug around
we'll
your
videotape
neck
it. It'll be a Patreon exclusive. It'll be worth the money.
Do snuff films violate the terms of service for Patreon?
Maybe.
Look, I've got
We'll have to go
$1 million ideas like this, guys. You just give us the money so you can hear them.
All right, don't do what Yoshi says, but please consider.
You know they're
contributing
gonna
on
fucking
Patreon.
do it. They listen to me. I've hardly said anything this episode. They're gonna give a shit about what I just said.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Later.
Thanks for listening to Transmissions. Remember, you can help support the show by donating to us directly via Patreon or PayPal. Once you become a donor, you will receive access to donor-only goodies, like donor-only contests, listening to us record transmissions live, and getting Transmissions swag at 20% off. You can find links for this at transmissionspodcast.com/support. Subscribing to us on Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play is also a great way to support us here at Transmissions. Every subscription we get helps us get better noticed on those services. Leaving us a comment and 5-star review doesn't hurt either. Be sure to come chat with us on Discord. You will find a link for Discord at transmissionspodcast.com/Discord. And of course, you can always send us an email at feedback@transmissionspodcast.com. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
Give us some tests.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Test.
Pretty woman walking down the street.
Don't stop.
God damn it,
Daryl.
Yoshi! What are you doing? That's what I said.
You said hope for the best,
Yes.
but fears the worst? I don't hope.
You don't hope for the best.
I hope, but I prepare for the worst.
Why? But you can't prepare for IDW putting out bad comics.
We have no donators this week, so we'll be moving on to comics news.
Yoshi and I are just going to take over the show. Well, Charles and Daryl fight.
What do you got, Jeremy?
Mike, cut this all out.
Charles doesn't like my intros because he doesn't understand them.
It's not your intros, it's you.
I don't understand why you're bothering to correct me. It's just...
Because I said prepare and you said fears.
So what?
It's different.
Okay, but I wasn't using that. I wasn't using prepare. I was using fear because I don't want to prepare for bad comics. I fear bad comics.
We're just standby watchers of this train wreck. Jeremy, I think Daryl has broken Charles. What do you think the next move from Daryl is going to be?
I think Daryl's going to try to explain it a little bit more.
I should, but I'm not gonna. Because I want to be able to go to bed at a decent time. So
oh my God,
I'm just going to let it go.
Daryl dropped the gloves, Jeremy. This is unprecedented. Charles has got an open smack to the face just waiting for him.
No, it's good. Let's go
All right,
on.
We're moving on.
Oh, wait.
Okay. My nose is starting to run. I'm going to start.
Oh, Daryl made Charles's nose bleed.
I think that's a point for me.
The verbal assault that we just witnessed was painful to watch, and the blood is just gushing now from Charles.
No.
I want to RIP for Los Angeles.
You're RIP?
Oh, sorry. RSVP for Los Angeles.
Daryl wants to murder Los Angeles. And then
Daryl is never allowed in the U.S. again.
Fucking LA.
Dick move. Next week, you're going to have a Patreon donator with that name, and I'm not going to be on here to be yelled at.
And I'm going to blow my nose a little bit because
Fucking
I'm still reeling from that verbal bludgeoning I got from Daryl earlier tonight.